Welcome to Summoner's Rift. Seconds until minions spawn. Minions have spawned. An enemy has been slain. Killing spree. An ally has been slain. Rampage. Enemy has been slain. destroyed a turret. An enemy has been slain.